A loving family man or a cold-blooded maniac? Behind his smile hides a terrifying secret. He's hunting young women and playing a deadly game. Please, will anyone escape his twisted plan? Barney Kazans arrived at his country house to conduct an experiment and plan a kidnapping. He picked up a stopwatch, poured chloroform onto a handkerchief, and inhaled it several times. When Barney regained consciousness, he was satisfied with the results. His victim would be unconscious for 37 minutes, giving him enough time to deliver her to his house. Afterward, Barney rehearsed how he would lure the girl into his car. Not everything worked perfectly the first time, but that's what practice is for. If the stranger got into the car, she would have no chance of escape. Denise suspected her father might be having an affair, as he frequently disappeared into his house. Even while talking to his daughter, he was secretly rehearsing his plan for the upcoming attack. Denise didn't appreciate the sinister game her father was playing. Barney brought Denise home under the pretense of helping him with repairs. While there, he found a spider and clearly had something in mind. That evening, Barney continued to unsettle his daughter. He offered her a snack, but the food was covered in spiders, causing Denise to scream in fear. This was also part of his plan. The next morning, Barney asked a neighbor if they had heard a woman screaming the night before. "I thought I heard screams, like a child." The neighbor denied it. Barney then went into town to make his first attempt. He asked a passing girl where the post office was and offered her a ride, but she refused without hesitation. Barney's heart rate was racing, and he knew he needed to calm down. By the sixth attempt, his heart rate had dropped from 180 to 95 beats per minute. His wife, Helen, also suspected that Barney was seeing someone else, but he claimed he was simply busy renovating the house. Meanwhile, Jeff and Diane, a young couple, were traveling across America. Diane was uncomfortable with Jeff taking her to some remote location. In the middle of the tunnel, Jeff and Diane ran out of gas, even though Diane had warned him they needed to fill up. "Why didn't you stop? We passed 10 places." Irritated, Jeff got out of the car to fetch a gas can, leaving Diane alone. Jeff, don't leave me alone." When Jeff returned, Diane was gone. She had been sitting nearby, upset. Back in the car, Diane burst into tears. To make the girls less suspicious of him, Barney pretended to have a broken arm. Besides, a cast conveniently hid a bottle of chloroform. Diane asked Jeff to promise never to leave her alone again, then gave him a lighter engraved with "Forever Diane." She took the keys, intending to drive them further, but first went to the restroom. Barney noticed her disappearance. A considerable amount of time passed, and Diane still hadn't returned. She wasn't in the store or the restroom. Panic set in for Jeff. Diane... That evening, a police officer informed Jeff that they wouldn't file a missing person report for 24 hours. Distraught, Jeff returned to his car and began to cry. Barney noticed a flyer with Diane's photo. She had been missing for 3 years. Jeff had been putting up new flyers every month and had recently shared her story on the radio. Exhausted, he went into a cafe that night. The waitress, Rita, remembered Jeff from school and offered to serve him. He told her about a friend who had disappeared 60 miles away and showed her Diane's photo. Rita insisted Jeff stay at a hotel instead of driving. In the end, she even put Jeff's car in the cafe's garage and took a job there herself. The next day, Jeff told Rita he had recently lost his job but was now writing a novel. Sometime later, Rita and Jeff moved in together. He no longer wanted to talk about Diane, trying to avoid the pain. One evening, Rita discovered a gun Jeff had bought for self-defense and asked him to get rid of it.
"Why didn't you tell me we have a loaded gun in the closet?"
A publisher called Jeff and set up a meeting. His novel wasn't quite suitable, but in exchange, they offered him the chance to write a book about what had happened to him several years ago. Jeff agreed without telling Rita what he was working on. A flood of memories prompted Jeff to resume his search for Diane. He was even invited to appear on television. Tonight, my guest is the very courageous, very tormented young man, Jeff Herman. Barney and his daughter watched the program. Barney was revealed to be a university professor. Goggles. Meanwhile, Rita became curious about what Jeff was writing. The document was password protected. Rita tried every possible combination of her own name. Then she tried the first and last names of Jeff's ex. Finally, she combined letters to form the word disappeared, and it worked. Among children's fairy tales, Rita discovered a written message to Diane. Jeff couldn't forget her and wouldn't stop until he found her. Panic set in for Rita. She found Jeff and appeared before him dressed as Diane, even putting on a dork wig. She told him that if he wanted Diane, he could call her that, but she would treat him terribly and then disappear without a trace. Jeff's entire room was covered in maps and newspaper clippings. It was time for him to decide who he truly loved. That not knowing Diane's fate had been tormenting him. He needed to find out every detail, even if it meant discovering that she was dead. Rita decided to help him. The two of them arrived at the very gas station where it had all begun. Oddly, Jeff had never returned there himself. He had only sent flyers. Now, Rita was giving Jeff a last chance. Or she would leave him forever. Jeff rushed to Rita and hugged her, finally choosing the life he could hold in the present. All the newspaper clippings and leaflets were burned that same day. Barney, however, wasn't happy about losing sight of a familiar face. He immediately wrote a letter to Jeff, slipping it under his door and inviting him to meet. He showed the letter to Rita. "Rita, go on. Come on." "He's following me," Jeff concluded. At first, Rita assumed it was some kind of hooligan. Then she insisted that he go to the police. But Jeff wanted to confront Barney himself. After all, he had signed his name. Realizing Jeff hadn't changed, Rita broke up with him. She returned to the apartment to pack. When he returned to the apartment, he discovered that Rita had moved out. Barney followed him in and revealed his identity. He showed him the keys he had taken from Diane. Despite Jeff's promise to just talk, he attacked the man he hated most. He began brutally beating him. The maniac only smiled in response. "I'm sorry, were you done? You're going to tell me where she is. If you kill me now, you'll never know the truth," he said. Barney invited Jeff into his car. After some thought, Jeff agreed, hoping to finally meet Diane. Meanwhile, Rita, drunk, wanted to hear her answering message again, but Jeff had re-recorded the greeting, and Barney's voice was caught on tape. Realizing she was in danger, Rita grew alarmed. The seemingly kind maniac offered Jeff a snack and clarified that he had not harmed Diane. "I just want to know what happened to Diane. Then you'll want to listen to the story." Afterward, Barney recounted a story about a vacation with his family when they saw a little girl drowning. Without thinking, he had jumped into the water and saved her. In his daughter's eyes, he had been a hero. But Barney wondered whether he was capable of the magnitude of evil as he was of good. Terrible, unimaginable evil. Saving a person's life may have made me a hero, but did it make me a good person? Meanwhile, Rita called the police, but the officer told her they couldn't issue a wanted notice for Jeff for another 24 hours. Determined, Rita decided to take matters into her own hands. She went to the strange neighbor who had witnessed the fight. At the police station, Rita lied, claiming her car had been stolen and provided Barney's license plate number. That's how she learned his name and address. That's the Seattle new one, thanks. So, Barney talked about how his past attempts to lure victims had failed. Once on his birthday, he had received a bracelet and a photo album personally dedicated to the family's father. In one of the photos, Barney had a broken arm. That's when he realized he had to appear weaker, not stronger.
Excuse me. With a plaster cast in place, he easily tricked a woman into his car by asking for help. But then he sneezed. Bless you. Wiping his face with a handkerchief, he nearly passed out. Barney decided to abandon the plan that day and, laughing, threw away the cast. However, Diane approached him, needing to exchange bills the coffee machine wouldn't accept. Normal single. You could trade me for one of my mangled ones. Thank you. The girl noticed Barney's bracelet and wanted to give one to Jeff. I handle sales for the whole Northwest Territory. Wow. Barney lied, saying he was selling them, and invited Diane to his car to buy one. The price was only $2. The trusting girl followed the stranger. The handkerchief was wet. Jeff asked her to get in the car and help him. Diane hesitated at first, but when she saw a family photo, she relaxed and complied. Barney immediately attacked her, knocking her out. Years later, he and Jeff returned to that same gas station. Barney had decided to meet Jeff because of his persistence and determination, such a worthy opponent. Meanwhile, Rita arrived at the maniac's house. Dennis came out to meet her. The girl assumed he was her father's lover. Come in out of the dam. Barney continued his game. If Jeff wanted to find out what happened to Diane, he would have to retrace her steps and drink the drugged coffee. Drink it, and you will experience exactly what she experienced. She was likely still alive, but Jeff wouldn't know until he drank it. Barney didn't even need a gun. His weapon was Jeff's obsession. Finding Diane was all he had. Drink, Jeff's. Really? In fact, he didn't even have a choice. Of course he drank the coffee. Jeff woke up in a coffin, buried alive underground. As Barney promised, he would retrace Diane's steps. After dropping the girl off at the park, Rita headed to the cabin herself. Stopping nearby, she grabbed the briefcase containing the gun, but it turned out that as she had asked, Jeff had already gotten rid of it. Shh, I really just like surprise. Barney was already waiting for Rita and attacked her from behind, but she immediately struck him in the head with the briefcase. The woman hid in the woods, waiting for the right moment, and then hit Barney with a board. Still, he tried to cheat again. Where's Jeff? Rita realized that if she killed him, she wouldn't find out where Jeff was, but that didn't stop her. She simply smashed him in the face with the board. She fell near Jeff's grave and ran on, hoping her beloved was somewhere in the house. Jeff, are you here? Armed with a knife, Rita called the police, but the phone reeked of chloroform. She began to lose her bearings. Just then, Barney returned home. Pulling herself together, Rita stabbed him, cutting his hand, but she still couldn't escape. Her car got stuck in the mud. Barney attacked her, trying to knock her out, but Rita burned his hand with a cigarette lighter. The handkerchief ignited immediately. The weakened woman was still unable to escape. Barney forced her to sit in a chair and declared that everything that happened with Jeff was a choice. He did exactly what he wanted to do. He even offered her coffee to ease the situation. Looking around and recalling everything she had seen, Rita realized Jeff was buried. Now it was her turn to play a game, claiming that Barney's daughter was her hostage, sweet, innocent 13-year-old daughter, Denise. Rita was ready to exchange Barney's daughter for Jeff. At first, he didn't believe her, but in the short time they spent together, Rita learned something personal about the girl's life and managed to convince Barney she wasn't lying. Let's talk about the mistress she's so eager for you to have. Barney took the rag off the phone and called home. His worried wife reported that their daughter had disappeared. If Barney wanted to find out where Dennis was, he would have to drink the coffee. Without a second thought, the maniac downed the cup. While Barney lost consciousness, Rita rushed to dig up Jeff. He was still unconscious in the coffin. God, be alive! Stay alive! But then Barney attacked her from behind with a saw. Turns out the drug would only take effect in 15 minutes. Rita's scream awoke Jeff. He grabbed a shovel and hacked Barney to death. Then Jeff discovered another grave, the one where Diane had died 3 years earlier. During a meeting with the publisher, Jeff declared that he wouldn't write a book about what had happened to him. No coffee, thanks. We don't drink that anymore. And that's the thrilling story of The Vanishing. If you love this summary, smash that like button so more people can uncover this suspenseful tale.